Okay, I think I'm live now. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this live stream, our traditional live stream on Tuesday, 12 p.m. California time. Let's wait for everyone to come because we have an amazing guest today. And we have an amazing topic, passing IELTS. And I have a guest who actually passed IELTS with a score of 8.5. Yeah, I see first people commenting. Great. Welcome, everyone. Hi. Yeah, one quick note. We will be reading questions from Language's website, and if you're watching this on YouTube, you should scroll down, and under the video, you're going to see the second link, which says, we're going to read your questions here, and the link leads to Language's website. I'm doing this because there are so many comments on YouTube, and I want to select the best ones, and on LanguageRip, we have less comments, so we're able to answer each question. So please, if you have any questions, just follow the link below and ask them there. Yes, hey, so right now, I'm gonna ask you a quick question. Let me know whether you wanna take IELTS, and if you want to take it, when is your exam? So we could know if it's like a high-level webinar or if we should go deep into some topics. So please let me know, when are you taking your IELTS? I know this is a new topic for my channel because I was mostly talking about TOEFL because I took it, but now we have this amazing opportunity to interview Anastasia, who took IELTS and scored 8.5. Yeah, somebody's writing more likes. Definitely, I agree. If you're enjoying this live stream, don't forget to like it. Okay, so we have people who are taking IELTS in September. Yeah, somebody's writing that the speed is a little low on my internet. I'm actually not at home today, not in the office, if you can see. There's a car behind me. I'm on a racetrack, and I'm here for 2 days, so this is the only way I can do a live stream. I know the quality might be a little lower than we normally have. Okay, so there's Istanbul, IELTS in less than 2 months. Okay, cool. Morocco. Nice. So we already have 90 people, and 94, so people are joining. I think we're going to start, so I'm going to present my guest. Her name is Anastasia. Hi, Anastasia. Thank you so much for joining us today. Hey.
Hi, everyone. It's so great to be here today, and I'm really happy. So I'm going to share some tips and some information about how I passed IELTS and about how my teacher passed IELTS. So I'm going to start with just a short introduction of myself. My name is Anastasia, and I graduated from Boston University, and I actually passed IELTS exam with a score of 8.5. I also passed TOEFL exam, but today I'm going to talk about IELTS. So, okay, just a few things about IELTS. IELTS, it's just not a test that you can take in order to get university abroad or abroad. Actually, that you can take, and you can learn so many amazing things while preparing for this exam. So you will be able to improve your English level, and you will be able to learn a lot of new vocabulary and to learn phrasal verbs, because a lot of people hate learning phrasal verbs, but without them we are never going to be able to talk like natives, and this is the main important thing that we have to do. And okay, so there are two types of IELTS examination and IELTS academic. So usually people who want to study in the United States or anywhere in the UK, they take IELTS academic, while people who want to move or work, they do study and take IELTS general. So today I'm going to be talking about IELTS academic, and I will make several tips about IELTS general, but mostly I will focus on IELTS academic. So let's start. Thing that I wanted to say is there is a common belief that to study in the United States, you have to pass TOEFL, and if you want to study in the UK, you have to pass IELTS. And actually it is not true, because you can get to an American university with an IELTS certification, even if you pass it with a relatively middle score, so something like 7 or 7 and 5. So now about the structure of the examination. As any language test, IELTS is consisted of 4 parts. So there is listening part, there is reading part, there is writing part, and speaking part. So I will start with the listening part because it is the most important part and it is the first part that we made. And listening part consists of 4 sections. So in the first section, you are going to listen to a conversation on a daily basis. So let's say, okay, something that you can meet while you're booking a hotel or renting a flat or just talking or inviting your friend for a dinner. So the second section is going to be a monologue. The third section is also going to be dialogue, but this time it's going to be a little bit more academic. For example, 2 students discussing a project they want to do in physics, something like this. Last section, it's actually going to be another monologue, but this time this monologue is going to be about something academic. So for example, like a lecture you may hear at the university, or just a usual regular lesson you may listen to at school. And after all these sections, you will be able to answer some questions, tips that you actually have to follow if you want to pass, and if you want to pass TOEFL, and if you want to get. So tip number 1, you have to be very attentive, as the listening is going to be only one time. So you're not going to listen to the recording for the second time or for the third time like they do during many examinations. So you have to be very focused during this 30 minutes that the listening lasts. You have to answer the questions, and you have to read the questions, and so you have to multitask. And this is tip number 1. Tip number 2 is that you have to pay attention to the tasks, because sometimes there may be a task like you have to write one word and a number, or sometimes they write one word and or a number. So it means that you will have to write either one word or one number, or a word and a number. And this is very important. So like, for example, I had one student who recently took a test, and before she came to me, she told me that she took the test for lots of times, and she scored like 5 or 6 or 6 and 5 points. And when we started to look through her mistakes, we actually found out that she just wrote the definite articles in every answer she was writing there. So like, okay, there is some sentence and you have to insert the word entrance, and she inserted the word entrance with the definite article. So it was the major problem that she had, and this is actually why she got such a low score. So you have to be very attentive in this. The third tip is that you have to guess if you don't know the right answer. Because on IELTS, you're not going to be charged for incorrect answers. So if you're not sure, or if you didn't hear what was there in the recording, you can just guess. And this is going to be perfectly fine, because even if you're not correct, you're not going to get your score lower. And if you are correct, you're going to increase your score and you're going to get a higher score. And okay, this is it for the main tips. Oh, another thing that I forgot. In the listening, you also have a question that is named a map question. So I'm going to show you an example of such a map question. And in this type of the question, you have to be very careful about the letters. So I think right now you're going to see this. So you are given a map of some place. It doesn't matter what kind of place it is. And under this map, you have some names of the locations that are spotted here. The locations are marked with different letters. And for example, in this particular task, a lot of students, about 50%, I think, made a mistake because in one of the tasks they chose letter B, so this one, only because they didn't notice letter A that was located here. So before you do this task, please pay attention that you see all the letters and that you do not keep any letter, because it's really it's a very stupid mistake. And I think that if you have an opportunity not to make it, you should go for this option. All right, you are going to ask, how can I improve my listening? So for example, let's say that you just keep listening and keep doing the listening practice, and you don't understand what they are talking about. So what can you do in order to improve your listening skills? First of all, while you are still preparing, I recommend that you listen, for example, to the recording once. You do answer the questions. Then you check yourself. You mark your score. You realize how many mistakes you made. And then you continue listening. So like you may listen for 2 or 3 or 5 times until you understand everything that is there, everything that the speaker is talking about. Helpful. And it helps you a lot. So after you have been listening for, okay, let's say 5 times, and you understand more or less what they are talking about, then you go to the transcript. And usually I'm also going to show you at the end of each book with a test, there's transcripts. So it looks like this. It is a transcript. And you see that here are just different texts that you heard in the listening. So you go to this transcript and you write down all the words that you don't know, all the unfamiliar words that you meet, and you write them down in your notebook and you try to remember all of them, because usually the words, they are repeating. So you may meet some word in one listening test, and then you're going to meet the same word in the reading test, for example, or in other listening tests. So it's very important to remember this vocabulary. And another tip that I'm going to give you to improve your listening is that you have to listen to audiobooks. And I know this sounds really simple, and probably a lot of people told you it already, but it's not what I mean. For example, when people tell you that you have to listen, it doesn't mean that you have to go to, I don't know, to YouTube and open 2 videos and watch them and say, okay, I listened to people speaking. It means that you have to download an audiobook. You can do it for your MP3 player or for your smartphone, whatever. And then you start listening, and you have to listen at least for 1 or 2 hours a day. So it means like when you're doing some sports, for example, in the morning I usually do some gymnastics, and while I do it, I listen to different types of audiobooks I find. You're, I don't know, a working mom with 3 kids, you have to listen while you are doing something about the house, while you are sweeping, or you are outside. So this really helps. You will understand that after a few, maybe less, you're going to see a huge improvement. And why do we do this? Because we need to play a trick on our mind. So, for example, when it starts listening to English speech all the time, that it got to, okay, let's say that we moved to the United States or to the UK, and it just turns and switches, and right now we are going to be able to understand almost everything that the speakers are going to tell us. So it really helps. This is it with the listening section. And now we go.
I just wanted to add something because I really like what you said right now. So I wanted to add about audiobooks. This is a really helpful tip. And I listen to audiobooks on Audible. It's from Amazon. But what I find, their books are so expensive. You can download some free ones. So if you have a limited budget to listen to English language native speakers, you can also go to YouTube and select any English language blogger. Like the most famous one is Casey Neistat. Probably everybody knows him. He has millions of subscribers. He releases his blogs daily, and he lives in New York. His vlogs are amazing, really well edited, and he's a native speaker, so you can just follow him, and when you're doing your gymnastics in the morning or cooking your dinner, you can just switch on his blogs. You don't have to watch them. You just listen to the native speaker speaking, and you can do that with any blogger you like. So pick a topic that you enjoy. And another thing also really useful for listening is watching TV shows in English. I'm actually going to be releasing a new video. So my next video is about the TV shows that you can watch to improve your English. And I've selected my 5 favorites, and I still watch them to improve my vocabulary or maybe learn the accent, because I'm still like switching from my British, Russian, whatever accent to American. So yeah, just follow this advice. And yeah, Sila wanted to say hi. He's sitting here with me and listening to Anastasia and improving his English. So I'm gonna Anastasia, I'm gonna switch you on again. Yeah, let's continue.
Okay, so yeah, this was really a very helpful advice. Thank you. Okay, so the next section is a reading section. And in the reading section, the things are much easier because we have only 3 parts in this section. And each part takes about 20 minutes. So we have to read a text and do some answers afterwards. So my advice is that you keep in mind that we don't have to read the text and to understand the text. We just have to answer the questions correctly. So it means that we skim the text first, and it takes us for about 2 or 3 minutes. Then we go to the question page and we read the questions, and then we try to answer the questions by locating them using the keywords in the text. So for example, you see several keywords, you try to find them in the text, in the right paragraph, you read this paragraph, you not even read it, you just quickly skim it, and then you go and answer the question. So this is our main topic, and this is what we have to care about, not about reading and understanding the whole text. And another tip for the reading is that after you read it, for example, as I already told you about listening, after you read the text and you answer the questions, you have to go through the transcript again, or to go through the text itself, and you have to learn all the unfamiliar words you met there. This is also quite important because these words are very important on the IELTS, and you may also meet them in any section, and you may also read and use them in your writing essays. So about the reading, I think that's it. And you also have to be very attentive while you are reading. Sometimes there are questions like where you have to choose between true, false, and not stated. And for example, when I was doing this section on my test, I was at first a little bit confused because I was overthinking. Like, I thought, okay, maybe they told it or maybe they didn't. And you don't have to overthink. If they didn't tell it in the text, you have to choose not stated. If they told it, you have to choose true or false, depending on what they told there. Okay, this is it for the reading. And
Yeah,
now we pass.
Yeah, I will be adding, like after each section, I will be adding some of my comments as well, because I can relate to like everything, especially about like overreading or looking for something that was not said in the text. This is so important because I know many of you are taking another test, so not just IELTS or TOEFL, you're also taking subject tests or like GMAT, GRE, SAT. So my advice is to take the SAT or GRE or GMAT first, because they are more complicated compared to IELTS, for example. And so my situation was I took GMAT first, and then in 2 weeks after GMAT I had TOEFL. And during the preparation, I couldn't understand what was the trick, because the questions were so blunt, like so straightforward compared to GMAT. I thought I'm missing something because they are so easy. But really, so IELTS is taken also like by school children who want to spend a year abroad. So this test is designed for foreign nationals learning English language. So don't look for a trick. If you see the answer or there wasn't the answer in the text, just select not stated. So pay attention to that as well. Because my problem first, so when I was doing my TOEFL reading test, it's practically like TOEFL and IELTS reading are pretty much the same. So when I was doing my TOEFL part at home, I never scored the maximum because I was overthinking. And then in the last practice test, I was like, come on, Marina, you need to concentrate. Your TOEFL is tomorrow. And so on TOEFL, I was able to concentrate and really not look for tricks, but just read the questions as they are. So yeah, this is also like thumbs up, Anastasia. This is something you have to do, and you have to watch yourself and not overthink. So yeah, I'll let you continue. Thank you.
Okay, so section number 4 is actually writing section, and this is one of the section makers, because in this writing section, so there are 2 types of writing sections. For general test, you have to write an essay and a letter, but as we're talking about academic IELTS, there you have to analyze a graph. As what again, I'm going to show you an example of what you may meet there. This is going to be on. So this is first writing 1, and you see you have a lot of diagrams, and in this case, these are pie charts. So you have 6 pie charts, and you have to analyze them. And this is really uncomfortable for the students because they see it for the first time, and they don't know what to write there. They even know the vocabulary, they know how to start, how to finish, but they don't know how to analyze it. And in order to show you how we do it with my students, I'm going to share my screen in just a second. I'm going to share you my screen and to show how we do deal with this type of tasks. Okay, so do you see it? I hope that yes. All right.
Yeah, we do. Perfect.
Okay,
yeah.
Great. This is a type, just a sample of a writing task that was written by one of my students. As you see, the words in yellow, correct words. So in the words, and if we look through this tab of the text, okay, we're going to see in the very scrolling great. So we see the criteria that I used in order to get an estimated assessment of this task. And if you see, there is like 4 main criteria. So the first one is total achievement. It means how well your essay is structured and if you achieved the result, if you used all the data provided. And the second is coherence and cohesion. If you used all the linking words, I'm going to talk about this in just a few seconds. Yes, if you used all the linking words and if you made some lexical mistakes. Okay, so lexical resource, it's about your vocabulary, and grammatic range is about your grammar. So as you see, this letter got an approximate score of 8 and a 5. And this is what I always like to do with my students, as that you can see your progress. Like, for example, this is the first writing that my student made, and after a few is going to see his improvement. So he's going to see whether his score is going to get higher or not, and we are going to analyze it. So as you see, it consists of 4 passages, and in the very first passage we just paraphrase what was given in the task, and this is also a very important thing to be able to know how to paraphrase. So the second is the overall, so it's the summary of what is stated in this table charts or pie charts or, I don't know, diagrams that are. So you started with overall, and this is a very nice word, so you may use it in your writings. So you start this paragraph with overall, and then you just make a short summary of what was in this pie chart. So in this case, you see that there is the majority of the countries use more than half of their water on agricultural purposes, and in contrast, there is like another proportion given. Okay, and then we have two body paragraphs. And in the first body paragraphs, we talk a little bit about three diagrams. And in the second, we talk about the other three diagrams. So usually, for example, if you are given, I don't know, two pie charts, for example, the one is about water use in the United States, the other is about water use in Europe. You have to talk about Europe first, or United States first in the first body paragraph, and you're going to talk about America's water use in Europe. And the main thing, the main tip you have to pay attention is that you have to include all the data. Like in this case, you see I have lots of percentage here. So it means that my student included all the data that was provided on this chart. And this is very important because since you, for example, if you don't include at least one percentage, or maybe at least one country, sometimes you are also given some years. If you do not include them, it means you are going to get a lower score on your total achievement. Okay, this is task number one. And task number two, just a second, yes, here it is. So writing two, it's really similar to TOEFL and to many other examinations. So the task you see, governments should spend money on railways rather than roads. To what extent do you agree or disagree with the statement? And usually it is quite similar to everything you have already written at school, probably, or if not, you have written on your English classes. So you have the introduction here. And the introduction, one of the tips is it's perfect to start it with "it is often argued that." This is a really great collocation and linking word because you're going to get much more points if you use it, since it's already passive construction. And as you see, we have lexical resource as one of the criteria. So this is going to show that you have a very good lexical content in your essay. So it is often argued, and then you give an introduction. And another main thing here is you have to include your opinion. So you start with "in my opinion" or something like this. And you give two reasons for your opinion in the introduction. This is very important because usually students are used to writing their examples in the body paragraphs. They do not state it in the introduction. But in this case, you have to do it because it's going to show the examiner that you know how to express your ideas, and you don't need to say something like, okay, right now I'm going to tell you my ideas in the second paragraph. So you state your opinion and you give two options, yes, two reasons for your opinion. Second, in the second body paragraph, you just give one reason, so you explain it more proficiently. So then you explain the other reason. And then in third paragraph, yes, third, no, it's already fourth body paragraph, you write the opposite opinion. So you, on the other hand, and you write some opposite opinion, you give one argument for this opposite opinion, and then you give an argument that states why you disagree with this opinion. It's right here. However, in my opinion, it's much more important to invest money into railways. So that my student states here the contrary opinion, the reason for this opinion, and then he states why he disagrees with this opinion. And also, please pay attention to really great linking words that you can use. First, it's "in term of." So in term of, it means like what about, with regards to the same situation. It's just the same linking words. They mean exactly the same, but they are different, and they show that you have a really proficient level of your vocabulary. So on the other hand, for the contrary opinion, and you have a conclusion. So in conclusion, you write the same thing that was written in the introduction, only you paraphrase it one more time. This essay would have gotten 8 points. So the task response was 9, coherence and cohesion 8, lexical resource 7 and 5, and grammar 8. So it was a little bit not so sophisticated as the first one, because the first one got 8 and 5, but still it was quite well done. And why I like to do this thing with my students, just a second, I'm going to stop the demonstration of the screen. Okay. So here you go. Okay. So why I like to do this with my students is because you get a score of what you are going to have on your real test. So when I was passing my IELTS, I had a teacher that just told me, okay, you're going to pass well, I'm sure. So this is the structure, this is how you have to do this. And then that was it. So when I came to my examination day and I started to write a test, I realized I didn't know what score I would get, even approximate. So I hoped I would get a high score, and I actually got a high score, and I was lucky. But I didn't quite understand what score I would get. And I think that it's very important, since you are going to spend money on preparation. You are going to spend money on the exam itself. So you have to know approximately, okay, between at least 8 and 9 or 7 and 8. And usually I make such an approximate score for all of the sections, and we get a final score with my students. And at least 2 weeks before the exam, we start to calculate the scores. So by the time my student comes to the examination, I can already tell, okay, he's going to get around 7 to 8 or around 8 to 9. And for example, just recently, a few days ago, 2 of my students got their IELTS results, and they told me that one of them got 8 and the other got 8.5. And we actually estimated the same amount. So even for the student who got 8.5, I didn't think he was going to get such a high score, but he was a very hardworking guy, so he got it. But still, his estimated score was about 7.5 to 8. So he already knew what he's going to get, and it wasn't a surprise for him. And I think it's very important. Okay, so this is it for the writing section, and now we go to the speaking section, which is also quite hard for people who have never spoken before, or sometimes for people who speak English, but it turns out that this is a completely different thing, to speak English and to be able to speak it during your examination.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something on the writing part as well. When you practice at home, also practice actually typing text, because I know, sorry about the dog, because I know not a lot of people are used to typing on just English keyboard. So try it at home, try to type, and also switch off the autocorrection from your Word or your typing processor, because on IELTS there would be no automatic correction. You would need to notice your mistakes yourself. So really practice that before you go. And yeah, another tip, Anastasia mentioned it, really important. You can do all of the practice tests at home. You can practice as much as you like. And sometimes I get students who say, oh, I'm going to have my IELTS in 2 weeks, and then I'm going to see what's the result. And if it's not too good, then I'm going to pass it again. This strategy doesn't work, because once you take your IELTS and you score, like maybe you needed 6.5 for university and you score 5.5, then you get really upset first because you feel discouraged that you've already tried and you couldn't get what you wanted to. And then second, you waste your money because every IELTS, I don't know how much it costs, but I guess around $180. Anastasia, you can correct me on that. I don't know.
It's 200 even. It's 250 or something.
Oh, wow. So it's $250 per exam. So and then you waste your time as well, because I think Anastasia is going to mention that later, but IELTS is actually like a 2-day test, because in the first day you do everything that we just discussed, and then on the next day you have to come to the speaking part. And I also had a student, she forgot about the second part and she never showed up on the speaking part, so she failed her IELTS. So really don't make that mistake of taking IELTS like every month. I know people do that, like sometimes they just go and take it and take it and take it. This is not the strategy you want to use. You want to prepare at home as much as you can. You want to see that at home you're consistently getting the score that you need, because like reading and listening, you can check it online. You can just download a test. For speaking and writing, you need to have a teacher, and Anastasia is a great teacher. I think the quality of a great teacher is that she has done all of the tests herself. So she's not just using textbooks to give you tips. She's using her own experience, and this is the most precious thing. So yeah, we're going to go to the speaking part now. I know there are so many questions. So we're going to talk about the speaking part, and then we're going to go and answer your questions. So yeah, hang on there.
Yeah. Okay, just one thing I wanted to say, that you said that you have to practice typing, and actually you don't have to practice typing, you have to practice writing, because you have to write and not to type on IELTS. So it's kind of a very useful thing you have to do, because many people right now, they're just only typing and they can't write with their own hand. So this is very important, that while you are practicing, and this is what I wanted to say in the end, but I'm going to say it now. So when you're practicing, you print the answer sheet and you try to transfer all your questions and all your answers in this answer sheet. And you also try to write your essays there using a pencil. And this is very important, because to be given a pencil during the examination. It's not going to be a pen. So if you are uncomfortable writing with a pencil, then you should definitely try, and you just try it several times and you're going to get used to it.
Okay, yeah, I've actually seen, in America, there are these drugstores that actually sell like notepads and pencils. I've seen special TOEFL and IELTS pencil sets, so you can practice with the same equipment at home. You don't have to get them. They cost like weird amount of money, like $30. Yeah, you just buy a normal pencil and you practice and practice and practice. Sorry about the typing. The typing tip is for TOEFL. Yeah, I didn't realize you need to write with your hand on IELTS. So make sure your writing is really, really understandable, because if you write like crazy, then they're just not going to get what you're writing, and then you're going to get less points.
Yeah, okay. So the last section, which is speaking, and a lot of students have problems with this section, although it's quite easy in my opinion. So on the speaking section, you will have 3 parts as in reading section. So you have, in the first part, you have to talk face to face to your examiner, and you have to talk about some things that, like everyday life, that you meet in everyday life, something like your hometown or your reading preferences, or what is your, I don't know, preferences in sport. So many students make mistakes in this kind of tasks because they can't speak about the simple things. So we usually do not discuss them when we're talking to each other. So you would never maybe say something like, what is your favorite hobby, to a person you already know, because he knows this hobby. And you will have to tell it to the examiner. So you have to be very attentive, and you have to use a really strong vocabulary, because the most problem is that still people just use a very simple vocabulary. Like, I have also made a short presentation for this. I'm going to share my screen one more time. Oh yeah, and another thing I forgot to say is about writing, is that in writing you have to be very careful about the language you use, especially not in writing 1, but in writing 2. So this is just an example of what you may meet and why you need phrasal verbs for. So let's just make a short task in English. So like, just think of a synonym that a native speaker would use to describe this action, so to stop the fire. And usually a lot of people don't know how to say that. So they don't know what to say, they don't know how to express it, they know to stop the fire. And then there are 2 things that you may actually do. I have 2 versions. So for example, just 1 second, we go to the second slide. And you have 2 options. So you can either choose to put out the fire, or you can choose to extinguish the fire. And let's think, what option would you choose? So my students with whom we did this task, they chose extinguish the fire because they just think it's a much more proficient level of English. But honestly, 2 versions are correct, 2 versions are right. So you may say to put out the fire or to extinguish the fire, but a native speaker would never use the word to extinguish the fire in this collocation, This is something you may meet in the dictionary or sometimes in some instructions about, I don't know, the usage of different things or just about the fire itself. So you will not meet it in a live conversation. So you have to know that you don't have to use this word, but you have to know this word. And to put out the fire, this is actually a phrasal verb that you have to know. So this is an example why you need phrasal verbs for, and what do you have to do with that? Okay, so we continue with the speaking practice, and another tip is, it's usually quite a common question on speaking section. So it is, what is your job? This is really simple. I'm going to cover the simple tasks because it's much more understandable. So usually a lot of my students do say that they would answer, my job is, because they are really stressed out, they don't know what to say, and this is not the right answer. So you have to say, I work as a doctor or I'm a doctor. This is just something very, very simple, but you have to keep it in mind and not to make such a mistake. Another thing is that when you are answering, for example, something like, do you like doing sports? A lot of people will say, yes, I do. I really like doing sports. And this is the right answer, and there is no mistake here. But you would never get a high score if you answer like this. You have to say, yes, definitely. So this is just the thing that you have to remember and to keep in mind. You don't answer, yes, I do, for any question. For any general question, you answer yes, definitely. It shows that you have a much more proficient vocabulary. And then you can say something like, I'm fond of doing sports, or there are lots of expressions that you may paraphrase like with it. So for instance, right now I'm going to give you some tips. So to like doing something, you can change it for to enjoy doing something, to fancy doing something, to be fond of doing something, or to be keen on doing something. So please keep in mind that you remember all these collocations, because we are very often asked about our preferences and about our hobbies and about something that we like. So we need to have a strong vocabulary and many expressions that we can use. So you can say like, to enjoy sports, I'm fond of doing sports, or I'm keen on reading, something like this. And another thing is, for example, the word a lot of. We use it really a lot, but we have to get used to using other words as well, which show that we have a much stronger vocabulary. So for example, loads of or plenty of. So it's very easy, but when you try to speak, you are really confused and you want to say something simple. So if you keep practicing on a daily basis and you make yourself say loads of instead of a lot of, you are going to succeed, and the examiner is going to give you a high score on this section. And something else that, okay, yeah. For example, the word beautiful. This is a very common word. And when we express some idea, we always say that, okay, I like this place because it's so beautiful. And we can actually paraphrase this variety of synonyms. So if we talk about a person, it may be good looking, handsome, attractive, or gorgeous. So you see a lot of adjectives we can use. If it is about a view or a place, it may be wonderful, fascinating, amazing, exciting, excellent, stunning, magnificent. And of course, you don't have to know all of them, but at least 5 or 6. So you can change the word beautiful for any of its synonyms, and it will show the examiner that you are not on your intermediate level, but you have a higher level, something about advanced or at least upper intermediate. And another thing about the word interesting. Also, you have to know how to paraphrase it. So if we talk about the book, it's going to be intriguing or exciting. And if we are talking about some site, it's going to be like impressive, fantastic, amazing, wonderful. So when you want to say, I like reading books because they are so interesting, or I like this book in particular because it's so interesting, it is not the best way to answer the question. You may say, I like this book because it's really exciting or intriguing, or I don't know, I like to go to Venice because the view is amazing there, or fantastic or impressive, something like this. Okay, And another thing that I want to talk about today, and this is almost it, is about the books you will need for preparation. So what I usually do, I have all these books in PDF, and I usually send them to my students, so they have an option either to buy them on Amazon or just to print them out. And usually, as you see, these are mostly just the tests. My advice is just to print them out, because you can simply use them and throw away. You don't need them for your future. And the best books ever is Cambridge books. And in this Cambridge books, you can see, so in this book in particular, this is the recent edition of IELTS in Cambridge edition. And you also have like lots of books, so from 1 to 11. My advice is that you choose the books that are from year 2015, because this was the year when the format of IELTS was changed. And you can start with these books, and then you can go to official IELTS practice materials or to IELTS trainer and do the tests there. They are not authentic, they are not official in these two books, but they are also quite good and they are quite close to the real tests. So you can try practicing it as well. Okay, so that was probably it about the writing section. I will stop my sharing screen. Okay, and just a few things I wanted to say, and we are going to finish with it, is a few general tips. So as I already told you, you have to practice writing in pencil because it's very important. Another thing is that if you don't know any answer, or if you don't know how to answer the question or how to do something, you can guess, and this is also important. And you have to print out the answer sheets to take your answers to the answer sheets before you actually do the test. Because I know at the test it can be quite confusing when you just come and you understand that you don't know what to do, and then you have to transfer your answers from your paper to the answer sheet in 10 minutes. Sometimes you may not have an opportunity to do it, and sometimes you may just think, okay, this is so hard, or you may make some mistake. I had actually a student, she made all her answers, so she did everything, and maybe we don't know because she didn't transfer her answers from the paper to the answer sheet. But as we started to think afterwards, she did almost everything correctly. So she would have scored, okay, something like 8 or 8 in the 5. But she was so stressed out, she forgot to transfer half of her answers from the paper to the answer sheet. And this was why her score got really low. And you have to practice doing this during like your practice time. And this is also important, and you have to keep it in mind. Okay, so I think that's it about the tasks and about the tips. And right now I think we can go to the questions.
Yeah. Let's answer some questions that you've asked me, guys, and asked Anastasia. There was this question about the sources of preparation. As Anastasia mentioned, the first book you need to get is the official IELTS book, and if you're one of Anastasia's students, she's teaching on LinguaTrip now, so if you want to book a class with her, there's a link below the video, and there's also a green button below the video if you're watching from LinguaTrip, so feel free to book and you're gonna get the books. And also like all of the sources are good, like if you're learning a language, like watching the YouTube blog. There was this question about who was this YouTube blogger I talked about. His name is Casey Neistat. If you Google, his name is Casey, so just Google Casey Neistat, you're gonna find all of his blogs. Okay, I'm gonna try and find questions that are related to IELTS. I know there are so many questions related to just university admissions. Let me see more, just a moment. I'm gonna reload my page. There are some questions about SAT. SAT is another exam that you need to take if you want to do your bachelor's in the States. How do I submit my mail for the SAT? Okay, so SAT, you actually don't need to mail it. You just need to share your results with the school, and this can be done through College Board official website, where you just let the schools know that you want them to see your result. Should the cleric letter be written or typed? If we're talking about the application, like university application, everything should be typed. Yeah, I'm a little surprised that you actually have to write like in with your hand the essays from IELTS, and the recommendation letters should also be typed. Yeah. Okay. Let me see some other questions here on YouTube. How to prepare for IELTS writing task? So I would say like practice, practice, and practice, and also have somebody check your result. Because again, you can do reading and you can do speaking, you can do reading and listening part online. You can just download a test and practice it. But with the writing part, you need to actually have somebody who would tell you what are your mistakes. Like Anastasia showed you, she has her own like system grading the essays. So you will have some feedback and you know where to go and where to improve. When I was preparing for TOEFL, I also had a teacher who checked all of my essays and he said what was wrong. And it's also very important to self-correct. So once you've finished with your writing, I don't know, take a sip of water, think of something different and read the essay again, maybe starting from the bottom and going up. This is something that I've used because when you're reading something that you already know, you can just skip the mistakes. But if you're reading from the bottom and going up, you're going to find some more mistakes. And this would be really, really practical in your exam. Is it possible to score minimum 7 in the age of 17? Your score doesn't really depend on your age. It just depends on your level of English. And if your level of English is good enough, then 7 is a possibility, of course. I have 5-6 years gap after graduation. Can I still do college? Yeah, of course. There is no like official rule that you need to graduate and then you can have like maximum 2 years. This doesn't apply to anything. So my thing was I had 3 years before graduating from bachelor's in Russia and then applying to the States to do master's. So it's really, really up to you. GMAT versus GRE for an MBA. Of course, GMAT. GMAT is the MBA exam, was created for MBA, and then masters in economics also adopted it. So like marketing and all of that. So if you're thinking of an MBA in the States, definitely GMAT. Is there any online preparation side? Sorry, I didn't get the question. I think the question is about like any online preparation resources. Skype tuition or any books that you can get online, and also like apps. You can just go to Apple Store. And Anastasia, by the way, any tips on the apps that help you prepare for IELTS?
Yeah, there are lots of different applications for IELTS, especially for listening. So you can just download them for free and you can listen to them on your smartphone. And I think they're very useful. But what I would do is just to start with a book, like with this grammar book about Cambridge. And then I would continue with different other applications because, you know, applications, they are good, but they are created not by people who actually create IELTS. So just for practice, they are okay. If you really don't have much time and if you want to concentrate, I would start with the materials provided in the books, like in Cambridge books. But still, yes, there are lots of applications, so there are just thousands of them that you can download for free.
Sorry. Okay. Next question is, sorry. Let me see. Sorry, guys. What do you think? Is it hard to decide to learn to study in the foreign country if you're 17, 18? I think if you're ready for this experience, doesn't matter. And I think it's important to go as early as you're ready, because then you're gonna have more obstacles on your way, like going to a university in your country that lasts 4 years, and then you're gonna think, oh, I'm gonna finish my university first and then I'm gonna study abroad. So if you have an opportunity to go now, I would say go now, because circumstances change and maybe in 2 years you won't be able to do that. And if it is your dream, I would just do it. So there is a question about IELTS and scholarships. Actually, it doesn't matter whether you're taking IELTS or TOEFL. Actually, scholarships do not really consider, so your IELTS or TOEFL is not really a consideration for a person who is responsible of giving out scholarships. They would look at your GPA, they would look at your GMAT. IELTS and TOEFL are these exams that are pass or no pass. So for example, if you're MBA or whatever program says that the minimum IELTS that we accept is 6.5, and if you come there and you have an IELTS of 6.0, they wouldn't even consider your application if it's a good college. If it's a college that is like medium ranking and they have good availability, they might tell you, hey, so your IELTS is a little too low. Maybe you would start with taking an English language class at our college, and then we would transfer you to a program that you want. But normally, if your like IELTS or TOEFL is below what the university requires, they would just not consider your application. And especially scholarships, they would not even pay attention how high your IELTS is. Maybe if you're considered for an assistantship, they might say like your speaking part should be really, really good. But so yeah, this is my 2 cents on it. Okay, let me see some other questions. Sorry if it's a little too loud. Yeah, Natalia says a lot of compliments to Anastasia. Yeah, I think this was a really, really interesting webinar, and really detailed, like nothing. So sometimes people like start talking about unrelated things, but this was like really precise and really useful. Thank you.
And I see there is some question like, my English level is B1. How can I improve my listening and speaking skills? And how can I speak automatically without spending a lot of time to think about what I'm going to say? Okay, so this is a very interesting question, because I have a lot of students who have problems with speaking and speaking with like thinking what they are going to say. And there is a special method, which is called drills method, that you have to use in order to be able to do this. Because I also met, like, I faced this problem as I studied 5 languages myself, and I had a problem that I just couldn't talk. I could listen, write, okay, I could read different articles, but I just couldn't speak. And I used this method, and it actually consists that you have to repeat one thing like for lots of times until you really understand it, and you can just talk it automatically. So you have to try to use this one as well. You can Google it and you will see drill section. And also another thing is that you just have to read and to listen as many times as you can, and you can also talk with native speakers. So the more you talk, the more you practice, and the better you are going to become at this. And I know that, Marina, on your website you have such a service where you can speak with a native speaker. So this is just a good option that you can connect with this person and talk about every topic you would like to talk to. Because with some people who you know, probably you are not going to talk about everything. And as you don't know a person, you can discuss everything you want. So I think it's really a useful tip.
Yeah, and actually right now we're also training our native speakers. So this service is called languagetrip.com/speak, and we're also training our native speakers to ask you questions from IELTS and TOEFL. So they would ask you the exact questions that are used in the exams, so you can practice your answers. So when you call them, they're going to tell you, hey, tell me, so imagine there is a naked woman painting hanging in the airport. Would you vote to remove it, or would you vote to leave it there because it's done by famous artists? So these random questions that you will never experience in your life, but you experience during the exam, you can practice them during the speaking session with our native speakers. So if you go to languagetrip.com/speak, this is your opportunity to practice your spoken English. And also, if you decide to take classes with Anastasia, you can also practice as much as you want, and like ask her everything. Like, I like that our teachers is so extraordinary. Like, she graduated from one of the top universities in the States. She speaks 5 languages. She passed all of the language exams that you can think of, and scored really well on them. So you can ask anything, and this is a great way for you to get useful information and also practice your English. So yeah, go ahead, and there's this green button if you want to like book a lesson. And yeah, let's take just a couple last questions. IELTS versus TOEFL versus PTE. PTE is the easiest. Yeah, well, maybe, but PTE is not accepted everywhere. So IELTS and TOEFL are the most universal exams. IELTS is the British version, TOEFL is an American version. Okay, hello from Nigeria. Okay. Yeah, I think the last, no, not the last. If you, best university in the States. So in terms of finding universities, I actually have like private consultations where we just sit down with you and you tell me everything about yourself, and we figure out what kind of options you have in the States or Canada. If you want to study here, and if you want to book it, you just go to linguatrip.com main page. There's my photo, so you can book a private session. I feel that this is not the best way to do it, like just recommending schools to people who I do not know, because I can make a mistake and I cannot assess your situation really well just by reading one sentence. And I feel I can know you better if we spend like 1 hour on Skype. Okay, and I'm gonna take the last question here. So I'm trying to find a relevant one. Okay, Masters in Finance versus MBA in Finance rated. So for me personally, I would take MBA just because I'm not really interested in concentrating on finance because so I'm managing a company, so I need this management experience more than like concentrating in what an accountant can do. But this is, again, this is a really personal question. So choosing a program really depends on your career goals, depends on your budget, depends on how competitive it is, because MBAs, sometimes it's more competitive than Masters in Finance, even within the same university. So yeah, I think this was it for today, guys. Don't forget that we have live streams every Tuesday at 12 p.m. California time. And if you have any questions, you're free to ask them. And I think next webinar is going to be just me answering your questions, but maybe we'll have some guests as well. So stay tuned, subscribe to our Facebook, subscribe to our Instagram. It's LinguaTrip everywhere. And Anastasia, thank you so much for your effort, and thank you for your presentation.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Yeah, and if you want to take classes with Anastasia, there is a link below, and feel free. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye-bye.
Thank you.